Hello, this is Deacon Greg Lawton, the Minister of Spiritual Formation here at Jackson First United Methodist Church, and I bring to you your food for thought for Friday, December 11th, 2020. This is part one of a two-part series on the strange gifts of Christmas. In C.S. Lewis's beloved Narnia story, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he tells of an encounter the Pevensey children have with Father Christmas, who we might call Santa Claus. I'd like to read this passage to you today and then tie it into another gift-giving passage found in the Bible on Monday for deeper interpretation. We're going to pick up the story at the place where the children and the beaver couple have been pursued by the White Witch across the snow. They've all spent the night in a cave. "It's all right," he was shouting. "Come out, Mrs. Beaver, come out. Sons and daughters of Adam, it's all right. It isn't her." This is bad grammar, of course, but that is how beavers talk when they are excited. I mean, in Narnia. In our world, they don't usually talk at all. So Mrs. Beaver and the children came bounding out of the cave, all blinking in the daylight, and with earth all over them, and looking very frowsty and unbrushed and uncombed, and with sleep in their eyes. "Come on," cried Mr. Beaver, who was almost dancing with delight. "Come and see. This is a nasty knock for the witch. It looks as if her power's already crumbling." "What do you mean, Mr. Beaver?" panted Peter, as they all scrambled to the steep bank of the valley together. "Didn't I tell you," answered Mr. Beaver, "that she'd made it always winter and never Christmas? Didn't I tell you? Well, just come and see." And they went to the top, and did see. It was a sledge, and it was reindeer with bells on their harness, but they were far bigger than the witch's reindeer, and they were not white, but brown. And on the sledge sat a person whom everyone knew the moment they set eyes on him. He was a huge man in a bright red robe, bright as holly berries, with a hood that had fur inside it and a great white beard that fell like a foamy waterfall over his chest. Everyone knew him because, though you see people of his sort only in Narnia, you see pictures of them and hear of them talked even in our world. The world on this side of the wardrobe door. But when you really see them in Narnia, it is rather different. Some of the pictures of Father Christmas in our world make him look only funny and jolly. But now that the children actually stood looking at him, they didn't find it quite like that. He was so big and so glad and so real that they all became quite still. They felt very glad, but also solemn. "I've come at last," said he. "She has kept me out for a long time, but I have got in at last. Aslan is on the move. The witch's magic is weakening." And Lucy felt running through her that deep shiver of gladness which you only get if you are being solemn and still. "And now," said Father Christmas, "for your presents. There is a new and better sewing machine for you, Mrs. Beaver. I will drop it in your house as I pass." "If you please, sir," said Mrs. Beaver, making a curtsy. "It's locked up." "Locks and bolts make no difference to me," said Father Christmas. "As for you, Mr. Beaver, when you get home you will find your dam finished and mended and all the leaks stopped and a new sluice gate fitted." Mr. Beaver was so pleased that he opened his mouth very wide and then found he couldn't say anything at all. Peter, Adam's son," said Father Christmas. "Here, sir," said Peter. "These are your presents," was the answer. "And they are tools, not toys. The time to use them is perhaps near at hand. Bear them well." With these words he handed to Peter a shield and a sword. The shield was the color of silver, and across it were ramped a red lion, as bright as a ripe strawberry at the moment you pick it. The hilt of the sword was of gold, and it had a sheath and a sword belt and everything it needed, and it was just the right size and weight for Peter to use. Peter was silent and solemn as he received these gifts, and he felt they were a very serious kind of present. "Susan, Eve's daughter," said Father Christmas, "these are for you." And he handed her a bow and a quiver full of arrows, and a little ivory horn. "You must only use the bow in great need," he said, "for I do not mean for you to fight in the battle. It does not easily miss. And when you put this horn to your lips and blow it, then, wherever you are, I think help of some kind will come to you." Last of all he said, "Lucy, Eve's daughter," and Lucy came forward. He gave her a little bottle of what looked like glass, but people afterwards said it was made of diamond, and a small dagger. "In this bottle," he said, "there is a cordial made of the juice of one of the fire flowers that grow in the mountains of the sun. If you or any of your friends is hurt, a few drops of this will restore them. And the dagger is to defend yourself at great need, for you are also not to be in the battle." "Why, sir," said Lucy, I don't know, but I think I could be brave enough." "That is not the point," he said. "But battles are ugly when women fight. And now," here he suddenly looked less grave, "here is something for the moment for you all." And he brought out, I suppose from the big bag at his back, but nobody quite saw him do it, a large tray containing 5 cups and saucers, a bowl of lump sugar, a jug of cream, and a great big teapot all sizzling and piping hot. Then he cried out, "Merry Christmas! Long live the true king!" and cracked his whip, and he and his reindeer and the sledge and all were out of sight before anyone realized that they had started. Peter had just drawn his sword out of its sheath and was showing it to Mr. Beaver when Mrs. Beaver said, now then, don't stand around there talking till the tea's got cold, just like men. Come and help to carry the tray down, and we'll have breakfast." What a mercy I thought of bringing the bread knife. So down the steep bank they went and back into the cave, and Mr. Beaver cut some of the bread and ham into sandwiches, and Mrs. Beaver poured out the tea, and everyone enjoyed themselves. But long before they had finished enjoying themselves completely, Mr. Beaver said, "Time to be moving on now." We'll pick this up again on Monday for another edition of Food for Thought, with a passage from Paul's letter to the Ephesians. But for now, I hope you can join us for worship on Sunday at 10:30. This is the third week of Advent, and so as Christmas gets closer, I want you to know what to expect for worship through Christmas week. On Sunday the 20th at 10:30 a.m., we'll have a special service of lessons and carols. This has been pre-recorded using many of you as readers from your homes. This was initially meant as a gift for our whole community, so I encourage you, after it airs, to share the link widely so it can be a blessing to those of our friends and the other people we know throughout Jackson. On the 21st, on Monday evening, we'll have a service called a Longest Night service, which is intended to be a reflective and meditative service for helping those who grieve through this holiday season. It's not festive for everyone, as we know, especially this year when things are so much harder and so much different than we want them to be. So that will air at 7 p.m. on YouTube on Monday the 21st. And finally, our Christmas Eve service will air on YouTube on December 24th at 7 p.m. Even though we cannot be together, we want to share the meaning and beauty of Christmas through every way we can for you, our church family, and for those we love. May you continue to have a blessed Advent in these times of caution and concern. Amen.